appreciate you attending tonight. We have let me transition my agenda here real quick. So starting off, we've got some announcements. And the first announcement is a proclamation for National Pollinator Week proclamation. Does Parks have anything to say, or should Bridget just launch into the proclamation?
Yes, Parks has nothing to say.
Yes. All right. So you do have something to say, Ross and Rich, or no, or just the proclamation? Okay. So you're on, Bridget. Where'd Bridget go?
I'm sorry. I thought we'd have a little break between when we're starting and the last one. I was just wondering if we could just take a couple minutes just to use the bathroom and find the proclamation, this giant stack of papers I've got.
We already started. We can flip back. We can always we can go to the police introductions and circle back. How's that sound?
That sounds great, because I have
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So we'll shift gears a little bit and go to item number 2, new employee introduction, human resource specialist Benjamin. Let's see if I can get that. Caracciolo.
Very close, yes, sir. Caracciolo.
All right. I'm married to an Italian woman, so I was.
You're right there. Yeah.
A lot of C's in her name too. Welcome, Stacy.
Yeah. So I'm here to introduce you all to Benjamin Caracciolo. He started with the city of Tualatin on June 1st as a human resources specialist. Although he is no stranger to the city, he started as a temporary back in December and ended up being a replacement for one of our human resources staff who ended up staying out on maternity after she had her baby. So Benjamin brings with him over 7 years of customer service experience, as well as a Bachelor of Science in Organizational Communications and Human Resources from James Madison University in Virginia. Benjamin is one of the rare folks in this world that started off his career aspiring to actually be in human resources. Most folks usually fall into HR by way of payroll or FEMLA processing or just happenstance. But since college, Benjamin has always had a desire to be in the HR field. He also has a strong curiosity for learning, and he's taken to the HR field exceptionally well, not only because of his desire to help others and his quick to learn attitude, but also because of his likable demeanor. And he makes positive relationships quickly with others and has such an outgoing personality. We feel really lucky as an organization to have Benjamin on staff, and we're really looking to see Benjamin's career take off in human resources. So please welcome Benjamin.
Welcome, Benjamin. That's quite the build-up. Wow.
I know. Thank you, Stacy. And it's
Yeah,
so kind of
all that. All right.
Yeah, and it's so nice to meet everyone. And thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it.
All right. So you've been with us how long? About 7 months, you said?
About 6-7 months. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you already know the lay of the land. I don't have to give that to you, but very much appreciate you transitioning to a full-time employee in HR. The nothing you have in common with my wife is she's also an HR person. So
wow, it sounds like your wife and I are just meant to be BFFs.
Yeah, I don't know. You'll probably cross paths eventually. She's active in the city too. So welcome to the city. We very much appreciate your efforts here. You know as well as I do, you've come to a terrific city, to a terrific head of HR, and that we welcome you and wish you well in a long career here in Tualatin.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's just wonderful to have an opportunity amidst everything going on in the world. So thank everyone, seriously, for this opportunity.
All right, welcome. Anyone else have anything to say to Benjamin?
Welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Cool.
Welcome aboard.
All right. So the next item up is another new employee introduction, a new police officer, Chris Boyle. Chief Steele.
Good evening, everyone. Bill Steele, your Chief of Police, and I have the pleasure tonight of introducing our new police officer in the city of Tualatin, Chris Boyle. I know Chris was on my screen a minute ago.
He's in the bottom left corner of mine. I see
There
him.
we go. So wave Chris. So
everybody.
Chris comes to us. He actually has been a police officer in the state of Oregon for 15 years. He's coming to us from the city of Tualatin. He graduated early in his life from Lake Oswego High School and the University of Oregon. I'm sorry, the Western Oregon University is where he went to school. He lives here in town with his wife and couple kids. He's pretty active in the community with youth sports. He's been president of the Youth Football Association here in town. So we're very fortunate to have him. While I'm here at home, he's out working, keeping our community safe. He knows our mission in the department is to provide a safe community and excellence in customer service, and really drives home the point of it's so important of how we treat people in our community. So we're very thankful to have him. He's acclimating himself into the city with a field training officer for a couple weeks, but he'll be out on solo patrol in just a couple weeks, since he doesn't have to go to the State Police Academy because he's already a certified officer. So we're very happy to have him. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Chief. Hi, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to at least end my career here at some point down the line. This is where I live. Been here for 14 years. My wife and I and family have made Tualatin our home, and we're excited for this opportunity, and it's a pleasure to meet you all.
Welcome. That's kind of cool that you've got all this experience. So you have to go to the academy. We can get you on the road fairly quickly. I just want to appreciate you making a decision to be a police officer at this time. It's not an easy job to be a police officer. And as you well know, having lived here in Tualatin, that our police department is very well respected. It's very community minded. We do a lot of community policing. And sounds like that's something you've got in your heart and your desire to serve. So yeah, I'd love to see you finish your career here, end up as a captain, and maybe chief one day. You never know. And welcome.
Thank you. You know, I've been in law enforcement in Washington County since 2005, and from all the other agencies I've heard, there's been nothing negative coming from Tualatin Police Department or the city. So its reputation is very good amongst the all Washington County. So that's something to build upon and go forward.
Great. Other counselors want to say hello to Officer Boyle? Anything to say?
I say welcome aboard, Officer Boyle.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome, and a virtual handshake. We can do that. Or fist.
Right.
Maybe one day we'll be able to do elbows again. Who knows?
We'll get there. Yeah.
All right. Well, be safe out there. Take care of yourself and your family.
Sounds good, folks. I actually have to go take some calls, so have a good meeting.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, we'll circle back to item number 1, the National Pollinator Week Proclamation, read by Councilor Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. And just the executive summary says the City of Tualatin is a certified Bee City USA affiliate and committed to raise awareness, enhance habitats, and celebrate achievements. The National Pollinator Week Proclamation is part of our goal to make a difference in reversing the threat currently facing native pollinators. And then the proclamation reads, declaring the week of June 22nd to June 28th, 2020 as National Pollinator Week in the City of Tualatin. Whereas pollinators, such as thousands of species of bees, are essential partners in producing much of our food supply, and whereas pollinators provide significant environmental benefits that are necessary for maintaining healthy, diverse ecosystems in towns and cities, and whereas pollination plays a vital role for the trees and plants of our community, enhancing the quality of life and creating recreational and economic development opportunities, and whereas the City of Tualatin manages parks, public landscaping, and other public lands that includes greenways, natural areas, and wildlife habitats. And whereas the City of Tualatin provides recommendations to developers and residents regarding landscaping to promote wise conservation stewardship, including the protection of pollinators and maintenance of their habitats. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the City Council of the City of Tualatin, Oregon, that the City of Tualatin designates the week of June 22nd through June 28th, 2020 as National Pollinator Week in the city of Tualatin. All residents are urged to recognize this observance and support efforts to protect and plant pollinators. The City of Tualatin community supports Bee City USA in their recognition of the value of pollinators by proclaiming June 22nd through 28th, 2020 as National Pollinator Week in Tualatin, introduced and adopted this 22nd day of June 2020. And I just also wanted to say that I do know that I want to thank everybody for their support in this, and the council and the city staff, including Ross Hoover and Rich Miller. And there's a wonderful section now on the Parks Department part of our city website that has all kinds of information about pollinators and plants that you can plant to help the pollinators. So there may be things that people want to do to celebrate this week and plant a plant or a flower in their yards, or know more about which ones in their parks and community are supporting the pollinators. So I just wanted to invite people to check it out. Thank you.
All right. So that ends our announcements. So we'll now move into public comment. And public comment is an opportunity for anyone to address the city council regarding an item that is not on tonight's agenda. Please keep your comments to about 3 minutes. If there's anyone in Zoom land or at the poll center who would like to address the council, this would be the appropriate time. I just want to mention that we did get the written public comment from Margaret Smith. We did see it, and it was emailed to us. And the other representative who let us know that he wanted to talk tonight is Mr. Stewart. Is he here?
Good evening, Mayor. This is Anthony Stewart. Should I go ahead and commence? Is there an order?
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Hello, Council. Good evening. As I believe all of you know, I represent Western Oregon Dispensary, and I've had the chance to speak in front of the council a number of times. I appreciate you making the adjustments to allow for this community government to evolve and meet the demands of the coronavirus. As most of you know, Western Oregon Dispensary has worked with the county for more than 2 years, and we've been working most recently this February 2020, we again requested the county remove what we have deemed and what we believe is a disguised ban on licensed marijuana business development in the city. We've discussed this with the city council at great length, and we were appreciative that the city was moving forward in February with what were the incipient, beginning processes of moving towards a hopeful planned text amendment. The coronavirus has given us a little bit of a pause, and we wanted to bring this back to your attention so that we could get this on what we believe is a reasonable timeline to address this, and then hopefully have the benefit of helping perhaps some of the budget shortfalls that are going to be coming up this year. The city has received at least $200,000 in statewide marijuana tax revenue distributions, if not more, even though it has a marijuana development ordinance purposely written to be a disincentive to licensed development. Simply stated, jurisdictions that ban marijuana development by ordinance are excluded from state tax distribution, and those who receive funds with the ban in place are required to return the funds with interest. Meanwhile, state regulation has never been stronger. I'd encourage all of you to take a look at the monthly stipulated or finalized violations with OLCC, showing the fines and penalties for licensed marijuana businesses in Oregon. Ever since January 2018, this has been a much more expansive regulatory regime. The OLCC acknowledges that they have even more information about licensees than most of them have about themselves, and they use both on-the-spot compliance checks, minor decoy checks, as well as internal analysis of the database to identify licensees who are failing to meet regulatory standards, and even those who fail to meet best practices. Sales right now are at record highs, and it's representative of both demands and I believe the development and modernization and evolution of the market into a responsible adult use system. So we respectfully request that the City Council expeditiously review its position and define a set timeline for amendments to the Tualatin Development Code. There's a series of extensive correspondence previously, and I'm happy to talk with anybody who has any questions. I'll make myself available. And most importantly, thank you all so very much on behalf of myself and Western Oregon.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. I know we haven't forgotten about it. As you mentioned, COVID has changed priorities drastically over the last few months, but it is still on our work to do items. I discussed it with the city manager. It's just a matter of us reacting to COVID-19 and closing the city and now eventually reopening the city. But we have not forgotten. I remember our last work session, we discussed this at length and gave some direction to city staff to come back with some work for us. It's just a matter of that, as you well mentioned, that we're kind of busy with something else right now, but it's not off the radar.
Mayor, and also part of the direction was that we get some community input from the CIOs, and the CIOs delayed their annual meetings from April. We believe that they're going to be scheduling meetings this fall. And so that was our plan, was to go to them and get feedback when they have their annual meeting.
Yep. So anyone else, is there anyone in the poll center or anyone on the Zoom meeting who has a public comment? Is anyone at the poll center?
At the poll center.
Okay. Anyone in the queue asking for time, or is that it?
I also have no one in the queue as asked for any time.
All right. So that concludes our citizen comment. We will now move on to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda items are considered routine and will be adopted by one motion unless someone in the council would like one of them removed and heard separately later tonight. The consent agenda tonight consists of item number 1, consideration of approval of the regular meeting minutes of June 8th, 2020. Item number 2, consideration of approval of a new liquor license application for Lugano Cafe. Item number 3, consideration of resolution number 5499-20, approving and authorizing provision of workers' compensation insurance coverage to volunteers of the city of Tualatin. Item number 4, consideration of resolution number 5500-20, awarding the contract to Redflex Traffic Systems, Inc. to provide red light photo enforcement services and authorizing the city manager to execute a contract. And number 5, consideration of resolution number 5501-20, authorizing personnel services updates for non-represented employees for fiscal year 2020-2021. Item number 6, consideration of resolution number 5502-20, awarding the contract for the Boones Ferry road improvements, part of the Tualatin Moving Forward bond program, and the 2020 pavement maintenance program. Item number 7, consideration of resolution number 5503-20, authorizing changes to the fiscal year 2019-2020 adopted budget. Item number 8, consideration resolution number 5504-20, amending the city of Tualatin fee schedule and rescinding resolution number 5478-19. And finally, item number 9, consideration of resolution number 5505-20, amending water, sewer, stormwater, and road utility rates inside the city of Tualatin and rescinding resolution 5442-19. Are there any items on the consent agenda councilors would like removed? Paul.
Yeah, so I have a question on one before, and that is number 5, consideration of resolution number 5501-20. Sorry, hang on, I don't have a question on that, I've got a comment. I'm sorry, this is for, I believe this is for Sherilyn. Sherilyn, on item number 4, is Redflex the current provider of that service?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, so I have no question on that. I would like pulled item number 5, resolution number 5501-20, and resolution number 9, item number 9, resolution 5505-20. And then I also, real quick, before we go to vote on this, Mayor, I want to just make a quick comment on, and I'm surprised it was on the consent agenda, and that's item number 6, only because that is just such a huge thing for the community, and it's been something we've been working for a very, very long time. And so a shout out to the city and to everyone involved in that.
All right. So I need a motion to adopt the items other than the 2 that were asked to be pulled and heard separately tonight.
Yep, so I move to adopt the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda as amended. So I have to do a roll call since we're in Zoom land. So I'll start with Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Valerie. Councilor
Aye.
Pratt. I'm going across my screen here. Councilor Brooks.
Hi.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes, sorry.
Councilor Morrison.
Yes.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
And I vote aye also. So 2 items we'll hear later tonight. So moving on to special reports, we have a special guest tonight, Keith Weiss from TV FNR. This was a little bit delayed annual report, another victim of COVID here. Appreciate you being here tonight and giving us an update on the fire department's doings in the last year and how you're reacting to COVID. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors. Thanks for having me this evening. Normally around this time of year, I'd come and present in person to the council and talk about call volumes and trends and things that are happening within the fire district. But this year we thought it'd be more fitting to talk about the pandemic and COVID-19. And let me start by saying that we appreciate the city of Tualatin, and we hope that everyone there is doing as well as can be expected during these unusual times. It is good to see some of these faces that I haven't seen for a while. And I know at some point in time, we will get back to in-person meetings. I'm gonna go through a lot of different things that surround COVID and the fire district's response to COVID. But before I do, I just want to acknowledge our gratitude for Tualatin Police Department and Chief Steele. We've had a tremendous relationship as long as I can remember. And I think it's important that while we all agree that it's time to take a serious look at systematic changes to address racism and inequality, we know how hard our law enforcement partners work on community safety. And Tualatin Police Department, I think, goes above and beyond. They respond to cardiac arrests. They respond to overdoses. They have the ability to give Narcan. You know, the fire department, we do the best we can to strategically locate, but we need partners, good partners like Tualatin PD that actually help us do our job and serve the community in a better way. So I just wanted to acknowledge that right out of the gate. So with that, like most of our city and county partners, we've been focused on logistics, because logistics in something like this wins or loses for you. And so logistics, operations, communications, all things related to the pandemic, we've been heavily involved in. We're staying in constant communication with our public health partners. We have one supervising physician, but we also have an occupational health and wellness doctor. And between the two of them, they give us our guidance for what we wear, how we respond, and how our policies look today. So we're very lucky to have who we have giving us advice. We've had a COVID-19 task force in place since early March, and it seems like forever ago. But we started up a task force, and their role really is to make sure that we're equipped, to make sure that we're continuing to get trained on the new and updated information as it changes on a seemingly daily basis. And then they help us communicate with our front line to help us with protocol development and distribution, leave policies, you name it, COVID-related, Task Force One. That's what they've been doing. We're always known for keeping our fire stations and equipment clean, but now we're disinfecting the apparatus and fire stations on an even more regular basis. And as you may know, we have medics and rescues in our system that sometimes transport patients, some potentially COVID positive. So we're taking extra steps to ensure that those apparatus are also disinfected at least once a week. We've tested in our organization of about 600 people. We've tested 30, and we only test when there's signs and symptoms and reason to believe they may have COVID-19. So we've tested 30 personnel, and in all of those, and the 450 line folks, only one person tested positive to COVID-19. And I will tell you that they were off for a fair period of time, but they're back to work now, and we don't have anybody COVID positive. We don't have anybody under surveillance. surveillance, sorry. And so that's an amazing feat. And I credit a little bit to the vigilance of our personnel off duty, because I think we provide a tremendous amount of PPE while they're on duty. I worry about them off duty. And so they're obviously taking the right steps to remain healthy. Our current PPE supply seems, personal protective equipment is very, very important right now, and you hear it all the time. But our current supply is sufficient. Supply chains can be strained. We anticipate that they may be again as we move into the fall, but we continue to secure personal protective equipment from all different areas. And I have to mention that it's private. It's the citizens, it's private businesses that have really kept us in the proper PPE from the beginning. And anyone from a private citizen to a Home Depot or a dentist or a doctor, just their willingness to give up their supplies to ensure that we have a constant stream of PPE that we need. It's been absolutely outstanding. So we did transition early into a more reusable PPE, and we did that because we didn't know if we would be getting all the PPE that we needed throughout the pandemic. And so we knew, though, that if we use this reusable that we could decon, it should get us through until supply chains improved. And so unfortunately, people will see us respond and they'll see this suit that looks a bit like an alien or a hazmat materials person, and it can be frightening. Sometimes it's hard to communicate, but we have to do it. And I've stressed early on that we need good information from the people that call 911, and we have to wear the proper PPE because we're gonna come. We have not missed a 911 call, and we won't, but we wanna get to the second, third, and fourth call. And so I always encourage everyone, be forefront honest with any signs and symptoms, where you've been, and please don't be afraid. They're wearing that outfit so they can help others beyond that particular call. We've tried to do as much education as possible through traditional and social media about our PPE and the changes, about operations and community safety. And we did a PSA. I did one not too long ago. I apologize if you kept seeing me say, hold the line. But you know what? That was an important message at the time. My next one will probably be wear your mask, because that's clearly important too. So we encourage people to continue to be safe, keep your safe distances, and when you do, you will save lives. So they're all super, super important messages. In the fire service, we stood up a task force, but I'm not going to be just doing one task force. We had to have a second task force. So we stood up a second task force to evaluate how our operations might change as communities open, as the state opens, and what do we need to do or continue to do as we move into those different phases. So they're recommending how we transition our PPE in the warm summer months. I asked them to do a lot without a lot of information, and we're not following the phases that, say, a city or a county or the state would follow. It doesn't work as well for the fire service. We prefer to operate in modes, so it tells everybody right from the start that we can go to this mode and move back to this mode and go forward to this mode. We can constantly change modes. It's very common in the fire service to change modes of operation. So we're calling them modes of operation. We're using a national standard. We still only have essential workers in the office spaces, but we're planning for if we could change to a different mode, what would it look like? And that's what Task Force 2 is doing. But wait, that's not all. I couldn't end with the second task force. I had to go with the Task Force 3. Although staff makes fun of me because they call it Task Force 3, and I never called it Task Force 3. It was our economic forecast committee, and this is a group of very, very sharp people that are forward thinking in our organization. And what they're looking to do is, what are the impacts to the organization because of the pandemic? And they have to develop triggers that might occur fiscally that would cause us to change direction. And then what they're asked to do is come up with levers that the fire district could pull if we needed to ensure that we were sustainable fiscally well beyond this COVID-19 pandemic. So as I mentioned, our facilities remain closed to the public to limit exposure. I really hope everybody understands that. I know our community rooms are so valuable to the local neighborhoods that we have. And unfortunately, we just can't open them. We have to reduce our exposure. Back from my hazardous materials day, it was time, distance, shielding, and we implement all those things to ensure that we're as safe as we can possibly be. So work continues, as you may have seen, on our logistics facility center, which is there on Avery Street. Thank you to the city of Tualatin for helping us work through that process. Construction continues, and we hope that in late fall, we will have that new center up and running. We also were able to open up Station 39 that's on McEwen Road, and I am so sorry that we haven't had an open house, but we can't have an open house. And it's unfortunate. We're thinking maybe a virtual open house, a virtual walkthrough, something like that. But as I said before, our stations, our offices do remain closed, and we're not really sure when we'll be able to open those offices again. So since a lot of our community events have been canceled, we're trying to get out there in a different way. We've done drive-by birthday parties. We've done drive-by celebrations for retirees and others. We participated with the fine Tualatin Police Department to drive through Meridian Park Hospital. And if you didn't see that, it was an amazing drive-through event, a great show of support for our healthcare partners there at Meridian Park Hospital. Very proud moment for police and fire in your community. Our non-response personnel, so we do have a lot of the business besides just firefighters and paramedics, plan review, investigations, community affairs, all those things continue to operate somewhat like they did before, but we're meeting the needs of our cities. And our firefighter and recruit paramedics were in an academy when COVID-19 started, and we actually thought that we might have more cases of COVID. So we actually accelerated that academy. And I know some of you have been through the Citizens Academy, but this is the Academy for Firefighters and Paramedics, and we actually accelerated it. What we found interesting was that they got through quicker, but they had more reps and they got more time and experience doing the different evolutions that they need to do to hit the line. So they're now on the line. I can't remember the number off the top of my head. I want to say it was 12 new firefighters and paramedics that we welcome to our front lines. There may be questions about fireworks out there, so I put a note for myself on fireworks. So far, all fireworks displays that we're aware of have been canceled. We will be doing a lot of public education about fireworks and, of course, water safety this time of month. But there is, some concern on my part that without the large shows, without the big events, people may do their own large shows or big events. And we encourage everyone, be safe, follow the laws and the rules, and keep a bucket of water next to you and put all of your used fireworks in those containers. It could very well be hot and dry, and we're hoping people make good decisions and that we have a safe 4th of July this year. Two things that weren't really in my notes to talk about tonight, but I did want to bring them up to the mayor and city council, city manager. Thank you and all the city staff for the support that you showed while we dealt with the sudden loss of our fire captain at Station 34, Dave Pearson, who suddenly passed away early this year. It was very challenging for the fire department, and with your help, we got through that. And so I just wanted to say thank you for your help. It was an unusual time that just led up to this unusual time. So thank you from the fire district, our board of directors. We so much appreciate your support. And then the last thing that I have is that we do have 2 new station captains, one at the McEwen Road station and one at the 90th in Tualatin, Station 34 station. We're going to try to get them in front of the city council so that you can meet your new captains that are in the area. And so hopefully we can do it in person before too long. But I will continue to provide updates to the city manager, and I know you'll get updates in staff meetings as well. So thank you again for your time, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have before I go.
Questions for Chief Wife or comments or Weiss, sorry. Paul.
Yeah, first off, thank you so much, Chief, for all you and your department do, not only for our city, but for the entire community. You kind of touched on it. I just would like some clarification if there's any kind of timeline to opening up your community rooms, because that is a very important meeting place for a lot of events. And to the extent that they can meet safely and practice, safe distances within the meeting and/or hopefully wear a mask, of which I am a strong supporter of. Do you have any thoughts on a timeline for opening that up?
Well, first of all, thank you for your comments. And that is a good question. It's a question we get asked a lot. It's up there right next to when do we open up the main command building, which we don't know. I mean, I apologize, Counselor. I wish I had a good answer for you, but the reality is we have to kind of react to what we're faced with. So it's how does the state open? How does the county open? How does our city open? And then what can we do to continue to provide, safety to our personnel? Because as you're aware, those community rooms are a part of the stations. And so there is some crossover interaction. So we're having conversations. It's part of Task Force 2's responsibility for when we get to that mode of operation. What will it look like when we open up community rooms? I, as much as everyone, would love to have those open again, but I have to make the safest decisions right now, and I just can't guess. So we put it off into July, and then we're looking into August, and so I can't give you a guesstimate on that. I apologize that I can't.
No reason to apologize, and I appreciate your honesty with your answer, because I'm not looking for the right answer. I'm looking for a safe answer, and what you're doing is a safe process, and I'm very happy with your whole thought process and the way you're going about it. So that's fine.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Looking through here, make sure I see all the counselors. All right. Not seeing any, but I'd just like to thank you, Chief Weiss, for coming out tonight into Zoom land and here presenting your update. Yeah, it's been a challenging time for police officers and for firefighters dealing with this COVID-19 outbreak. One question I have for you that you might want to cover real quick. You mentioned fireworks, and we always hear about fireworks every year from our residents who have dogs. And the differentiation between fireworks you're allowed to have in Oregon versus Washington. Could you quickly talk about that? Yeah, you're absolutely right. What I like to tell people is if it flies, most likely it's not legal in Oregon, and they are available for sale in Washington, and people do go up there. But I will tell you, anything that flies, we're talking about roofs, and there's a fair amount of shingle roofs in the city of Tualatin. It's very difficult when a fire gets on the roof and in the shingles to prevent it from getting in the attic, and when it's in the attic, it's very challenging to extinguish that fire. So they also land in bushes, they land in trees, and then they catch fire, which also can catch a house on fire. I worry that people will buy the wrong fireworks. If you buy them in Oregon, you're safe. That's the main thing is buy the fireworks that are available locally at the approved stands and use those and be safe with your children, be safe with yourselves. And like I mentioned, have that bucket of water, because we have seen fires begin when they think a firework is out and they store it somewhere, and then it catches fire in, say, a bag or a box in a garage, and that becomes a fire too. So we want a safe and fire-free 4th of July this year. We've been pretty good the last few years, but again, buy your entertainment in Oregon and be real safe with it. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? I guess that's it. Thank you, Chief Weiss. Thank you so much for having me. I look to see you again in the near future. Yes, looking forward to it. All right. So our next item on the agenda is a public hearing, and it's consideration of resolution number 5506-20, adopting the City of Tualatin budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2020, making appropriations, leveling ad valorem taxes, and categorizing the levies, all accounting terms for Don. You're up.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I am Don Hudson, the Assistant City Manager here with the city, and it's my pleasure to present to you the fiscal year 2021 City of Tualatin budget. We do recommend that the City Council adopt the budget after the public hearing. The resolution is attached. The Tualatin Budget Advisory Committee approved the budget on May 20th of this year. The total of the budget is $134,022,565 as approved by the Budget Committee, and it includes amendments that will be considered by the council this evening as well. The general government tax rate is part of the resolution, it will be approved at $2.2665 per $1,000 of assessed taxable assessed value. In addition, we are asking you to adopt a bond debt levy, which is not subject to the Measure 5 limits and would be set at $2,923,950. Oregon state law requires the city council to adopt the budget prior to July 1st of 2020. I have to say that city staff and the council, the direction prides ourselves in providing quality services to our customers, our residents, and in a fiscally prudent manner. This budget, which includes our approach to the impacts from the COVID-19 pandemic, maintains a positive fiscal health position and is fiscally prudent. As you probably can imagine, the preparation of this budget was a little bit complicated by the COVID-19 pandemic. After the city departments had submitted their budgets to the city manager and myself, we then had to switch gears and we spent some time reviewing our revenues that would be impacted by such things as business closures, program and event cancellations, and services that were limited or temporarily unavailable. We also reviewed planned expenditures that would not be incurred with the reduction of non-essential services, and there were some that we took into consideration. The proposed budget that we presented to the Budget Committee in May, we took the approach of estimating the revenue impacts if service levels and the economy were not beginning to return through September or the end of September of 2020. That's what's built into the budget you have in front of you this evening. We will continue to monitor our revenue and expenditure impacts, and we can adjust accordingly in the upcoming fiscal year. I will mention to you, though, that we did set aside $500,000 in a reserve to help offset any additional impacts that we have not factored into this budget. Since the Budget Committee approved the budget in May, we have made some decisions regarding summer recreation programs and events. With those cancellations and the reductions of the programs that were to be offered, we are proposing in the budget in front of you this evening some decreases in the Parks and Recreation budget for temporary staff that we will not be hiring, as well for the events, as well as materials and services expenditures that are related to those events and those programs. Another impact of these cancellations is the decision not to hire the summer park rangers, and those expenditures have been reduced in the police department budget. In addition to the budget that is approved by the Budget Committee, the council has the ability to change the approved budget by no more than 10% of the total budget in each fund. Staff is proposing changes in the following funds: the Park Development Fund and the General Fund. The approved budget that was presented to the budget that was presented to the Budget Committee was approved out of that committee, included the total cost of the Tualatin Commons Fountain project. $28,000 of design work has been completed in the current fiscal year. So the budget you have in front of you has reduced the transfer from the general fund, as well as the total capital costs in the Park Development Fund. Other changes that are proposed this evening in the general fund are carryovers for expenditures related to the Census grant received by the library for census promotion, as well as we ordered a maintenance truck that was part of this budget that was ordered but will not be received until after July 1st. So we're asking for that money to be carried over as well. The last changes that we are asking for this evening are related to insurance. We now have the exact or the actual amounts for workers' compensation. So we're adding about $6,400 in that line, as well as we are now eligible to take out cyber insurance. And so the $10,400 is being added to the insurance line to secure that insurance. By adopting the attached resolution, the city will be able to operate, expend money, and incur liabilities for fiscal year 2021, which begins on July 1st. At that, Mr. Mayor, I'll be happy to answer any questions during this public hearing.
Okay. Questions for Don? Paul.
All right, if no one else is going to ask a question, I'll go first. So Don, the road utility fee fund that's on page 205 of your, I don't want to flash up at the top, it's too hard to screen through. It shows a total utility fee fund appropriations of 2.3 million and a reserve of 256,440. Is that number reflective of the resolution that I pulled from the consent agenda, or is that number a separate number that doesn't take into account the proposed increase in fees?
Councilor Morrison, the fees that are proposed in the resolution that you've asked to be heard later in the meeting, all those fees that are built into that resolution are built into the budget you have in front of you.
All right, thank you.
Other questions for Don? Valerie.
My question might be for Ross, if he's still there, but I'm just wondering, I know we have social distancing and I know like our playgrounds and are closed, but there are a lot of people in our parks and there are a lot of people using the river. And I'm just wondering why this decision was made to get rid of the park rangers for this year.
Hi, this is Ross Hoover. I'll defer to Bill Steele. Park Ranger program is actually a police department program, and he can certainly answer that.
Yeah, I'll answer that. So we did make a decision not to hire the park rangers this year based on kind of the uncertainty about the parks. One thing we did to offset that loss, though, our school resource officers would normally be teaching a summer camp for middle school kids. That's not going to occur this year. So we rotated those school resource officers onto bicycles, and they'll be providing much more of a presence in the parks over the summer.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. How about a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution 5506-20.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 5506. Larry,
Can I just back up 1 second? So this is a public hearing, so just to make sure, I'm guessing nobody's there, but.
All right, thank you, Shawn. So is there anyone in the poll center or here in the Zoom meeting who would like to speak either in favor of or against the proposed budget for the city of Tualatin for next fiscal year? Anyone at the poll center?
Nobody at the poll center to speak, although I'm all for it.
Okay. No one in the queue with a hand raised or anything, Ross? I'm sorry, Bates?
Negative.
All right.
Councilor Brooks.
Councilor Brooks has her hands up. All right.
I just want to thank the people and tell the people that reached out to me by phone and by email, both about the climate action plan and about policy initiatives being in the budget for the fiscal year that we're talking about. Both those concerns were heard and appreciated. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion on the motions? All right. So I'll go ahead and roll. And Shawn, this is first reading, second reading, or is a normal one? I always forget.
This is just a resolution, so no readings. Correct.
It's ordinances. Okay, I got to write that down. All right. So let's start off. Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Councilor Pratt.
Aye.
Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Morrison.
Yes.
Council President Grimes. You're muted.
Hold on. Aye.
I can read your lips, though. I can see it. All right, and the mayor votes aye, so this resolution is adopted. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to our second public hearing, which is quasi-judicial. This is consideration of ordinance number 1439-20, annexing territory at 10835 Southwest Tualatin Road, tax ID US 115 DD 00800, into the city of Tualatin and withdrawn the territory from the Washington County Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District, file number ANN 20-0002. Since this is a quasi-judicial hearing, I need to read a script from the Oregon legislature to make sure we cover all our bases and dot the I's and cross the T's. The state legislature requires the following information to be read: ORS 197.7635 and 6 and ORS 197.7963B. Number 1, criteria for approval of a proposed annexation are in TDC 33.010. Item A of 1, the territory to be annexed is within the metro urban growth boundary. 1B, the owners of the territory to be annexed have petitioned to be annexed. Item 1D, the property is contiguous to the city or separated it from by only a public right-of-way or stream, ORS 222. 1E, whether the annexation is consistent with directly applicable criteria for boundary changes in Metro Code 3.09, an urban service provider agreement or an annexation plan adopted under ORS 195.065, urban planning or other agreement other than those under ORS 195.065 between the affected entity and a necessary party, comprehensive plan and public facility plans, regional framework plan or functional plan, whether the proposed change will promote or not interfere with the timely, orderly, and economic provisions of public facilities and services, and consistency with other applicable criteria for the boundary change in question under state and local law. Item 2, testimony and evidence must be directed toward the above criteria or those criteria in the development code which you believe apply to this decision. Item number 3, in addition, if additional documents or evidence is provided in support of the application, any party should be entitled to a continuance of the hearing. Item 4, unless there is a continuance before the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, a participant may request, before the hearing is closed, that the record remain open for at least 7 days after the hearing. Item 5, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the council and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. The failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the council to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Item 6, the hearing will begin with the city staff report, followed by testimony in favor of the application, followed by opposition to the application. Rebuttal will then be permitted. Then the hearing will be closed and the council will deliberate towards a decision. Item 7, if any council members wish to announce any potential conflict of interest, bias, or ex parte contact, they should do so now. I don't see anybody raising their hands. All right. So that concludes the script that I have to read. So I'll hand it over to the city staff to present the annexation.
Hello. So I am Tabitha Boschetti. I am assistant planner with City of Tualatin Community Development. And I am here to walk us through the staff report for this annexation application. Let me just get my screen. Oh, I'm disabled from screen share. If maybe Bates can hook me up.
Now you're able.
Yay, thank you, Bates. All right. Okay, so we're here to discuss, as we were introduced, annexation case 20-02. To review, when we're talking about annexation, we're talking about essentially changing the city boundaries, incorporating a new area of land into the city. In this case, a small area of unincorporated Washington County that is entirely surrounded by the city of Tualatin. There we go. So we are talking about property at 10835 Southwest Tualatin Road. A little map here. That is city of Tualatin on every side of that property. This is about a 0.4 acre property. Really just kind of a little island of Washington County right now. The new owners have applied for annexation. And so this is essentially a request to bring this property into the city. It would be designated in the low density residential zone, which is the same residential zoning as most of the properties there on the north side surrounding it. You can see the future zoning, it's a little bit distorted by the color there, but essentially the same zoning. And the applicable criteria as we ran down are fairly straightforward in this case. You know, in terms of, can we provide city services? It is entirely contiguous to the existing city. It's a fairly straightforward yes on most of the criteria, though of course I'm happy to get into any details should anyone have any further questions. And essentially, staff would like to recommend approval of this annexation and also adoption of Ordinance 1439-20, which would further enact that annexation. Though of course, the council has options, and I welcome your discussion. I will stop screen sharing.
At this point, I believe the applicants have time to comment or support their application, and I believe those are the parks. So if you can unmute, if you want to say something about your application and your support for your own application.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for hearing our annexation application. Yeah, I don't know if there's much to say about it, but it seems like it would make a lot of sense just because it's like this little tiny island of Washington County that's left there. And I think it's just because the property didn't change hands since, was it since the 80s or something like that? So
Yeah.
just kind of got stranded there. So
82, 83, it's just pretty much deserted.
yeah.
Yeah, I see the property is kind of beautiful and nice spot and great community. And we have 2 kids, and like around that property, there are a bunch of kids also. So it will be pretty nice for our whole family. And
Yeah, just looking
yeah.
to build a single family home and then hook up to the city utilities. So
yeah, we heard a lot of comments that the neighbors asking, oh, will there be a duplex or yeah, they're kind of worried, but no, yeah, but no, we would like to have a small house and annex to the city, so part of a city, and yeah, and so forth. So
Right.
yeah, well, thank you guys.
So is there anyone else who would like to comment in favor of the annexation application? I'm assuming no one has run into the poll center at this point, Bates?
Correct.
And no one with a raised hand?
Not seeing anyone.
All right. So to anyone who would like to testify in opposition of this annexation request? I'm assuming both still the same, Bates?
Still no one at the poll, correct? And do not see any.
So I guess since there's no further comments in support nor opposition, we'll then move on to council questions and comments for staff or the parks. Nancy.
Hi. Yeah, I had 2 different questions. My first question is, how did it come to be this long period of, well, or how did it come that this little piece of property is excluded from the city when everything around it is included in the city? Is there any interesting history about how that came about or reasoning on that? And then my second question is, we had a couple different community, or I guess they're going to be the new neighbors of the new owners of the property that are concerned about some of the overgrown foliage and some of the other things that are going on there. Is there going to be a sort of an accelerated time frame to get some of those things cleaned up and the neighbors can get some mitigation for some of those things? Is that going to be a quick process?
So does city staff want to address the history of the?
I'm happy to get into a little bit of I don't have necessarily like a deep yarn on the history of the but essentially if you go back to the principle that Tualatin generally operates, that an individual property owner must choose to annex into the city and typically can opt out of that annexation process. I think what we've generally seen in this neighborhood was that a large portion of the surrounding properties, some of them annexed in the 80s, some I think more in the 90s, and probably the property owner at that time said, no, I'm good, I don't need sewer service, I'm gonna keep on keeping on, and our city code acknowledges that as their prerogative. With regard to, sorry, a bit of a frog there. With regard to, say, foliage and I think some of the general property concerns, I mean, I can say that, this will be bringing the property into the city of Tualatin and thus under our code and our standards of property maintenance. I think I don't want to speak for the owners, but it seems like I've heard some interest on if you want to jump in, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, the applicant, go ahead and let us know.
Thank you.
Oh, I can answer that part. We are currently renting a house in Tualatin because our kids go to school in Tualatin, and for that, actually, it's not cheap. And also at the same time, we're paying a lot of rent and mortgage and all that. But I don't know if you past a couple days. Well, previously we hired a lot of contractors and landscape crews and tree guys, and we put honestly a lot of money already into the property. I know it's probably like from neighbors like, oh, just nothing, but we so far put about $15,000 cash already, just for just cleaning up. And we also did asbestos abatement, which was $7,000-8,000, and that's not free. It costs a lot of money. I'm a local 48 electrician apprentice 4th year, and my wife works at the hospital. And we make a little bit of money, but the expense is like huge. And so please excuse us. I mean, I'm not making an excuse for that, but I am doing my best. We are doing our best. And past couple weeks after work, I work almost like these days 60 hours per week and less time for our family. But anyways, like after work, sometimes I go there and do weeding and clean up the property. And I don't know, probably someone probably seen.
Oh, it's an ongoing.
Yeah, it's ongoing, and just like blackberry bushes took over, it's just going nuts. So please give us some time. I know it's kind of frustrating for you guys, but we also talk to loan officers and contractors. So eventually, the new house in the nice, well-organized property will be there. So if you be patient a little bit and give us a little bit of time, then I'll make it right and make it pretty. Promise.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. No, thank you. That's a fantastic. I love the attitude, and I commend the hard work. And I'm a gardener. I know when a yard is old and overgrown, that's a big project. But thank you, and I'm sure your new neighbors are very appreciative of all the hard work that you've done recently. So thank you very much. And knowing that you want to take care of it and that you're on it makes me happy. So, and it addresses the concerns in some of the public comment letters that we got. So Thank you. I appreciate your answer very much.
Other questions?
Whoa.
I have a question. Can the public speak to a question, Frank? This is Veronica Williams.
Yeah, because we haven't gone to deliberations yet.
I would just like to say to the parks that I'm a neighbor. I walk by your property frequently and drive by it frequently. I think most people that I've spoken to are thrilled that somebody purchased the property and has proper plans for it. I would like to say, in response to the commissioner's, or the city councilor's member's question, that this property has not been maintained for almost all the time that I have lived here, which is 20 years. And so for people now to suddenly be concerned that somebody is purchasing it and expect them to clean it up immediately, I think is a stretch. So to the parks, thank you both very much. There's a lot of work in that property, and I'm sure when you're done, it will be lovely, but I do appreciate the amount of work. So thank you both.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
So any other comments, questions? All right, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the, head into deliberations on the annexation. So council deliberation. Pretty quiet. If no deliberation, how about a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance number 1439-20, annexing territory at 10835 Southwest Tualatin Road.
And I'll second that.
So we first, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
for first reading.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second for first reading of ordinance number 1439-20.
And just to clarify, by title, correct?
By title only, is that Bridget?
By title.
All right. All right, so I have a first and second for first reading of ordinance number 1439-20 by title only. Any discussion on the motions? All right, so I'll go through the roll call here. Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Councilor Pratt.
Aye.
Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
People shift around. Councilor Morrison.
Yes.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
And I vote aye also.
Ordinance number 1439-20, an ordinance annexing territory at 10835 Southwest Tualatin Road, tax ID 2S115DD00800, into the city of Tualatin, and withdrawing the territory from the Washington County Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District, file number ANN 20-0002.
I'll make a motion for second reading by title only.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for second reading by title only of ordinance number 1439-20. Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Councilor Pratt.
Aye.
Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Morrison.
Yes.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
I vote aye also.
Ordinance number 1439-20, an ordinance annexing territory at 10835 Southwest Tualatin Road, tax ID 2S115DD00800, into the city of Tualatin, and withdrawing the territory for the Washington County Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District, file number ANN 20-0002.
Now I move to adopt
Yes.
ordinance number 1439-20, annexing territory at 10835 Southwest Tualatin Road into the city of Tualatin.
And I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 1439-20, annexing territory at 10835 Southwest Tualatin Road into the city of Tualatin. Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Councilor Pratt.
Aye.
Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Morrison.
Yes.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
I vote aye also. Congratulations. The ordinance passes.
Welcome to Tualatin.
All right. Well, have a good evening and thank you for annexing into the city.
Welcome.
Welcome. All right. So moving on to general business. Item number 1, consideration of ordinance number 1438-20, establishing the mixed-use commercial MUC zoning district, deleting the mixed-use commercial overlay district, amending plan map 9-1 to implement PTA 20-0001 and PMA 20-0001. So is there any staff presentation, or we just, because this was approved during our last city council meeting, correct? And we just need to adopt it?
That is correct.
Does city council members have any questions about the ordinance for staff? All right. So we gotta go through the whole first, second, third readings.
Okay.
I will move. Oh, go ahead.
I just moved to, for first reading by title only of ordinance number 1438-20, establishing the mixed-use commercial zoning district.
Second.
I have a first and second motions for reading of ordinance number 1438-20, establishing the mixed-use commercial MUC zoning district by title only. Any questions on the motions? I'll start voting then. Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Councilor Pratt. Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Morrison.
Yes.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
And the mayor votes aye also.
Ordinance number 1438-20, an ordinance relating to zoning, establishing the mixed-use commercial MUC zoning district, deleting the mixed-use commercial overlay district from the Tualatin Development Code, amending Tualatin Development Code chapters 5, 6, 31, 38, 54, 57, 73A, 73B, 73C, and figure 557-1, PTA 20-0001, and amending plan map 9-1, PMA 20-0001.
Second reading.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for a second reading by title only.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for second reading by title only of ordinance number 1438-20, establishing the mixed-use commercial MUC zoning district. I'm going to go backwards now, and we'll start with Councilor Morrison.
Yes.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Pratt.
Aye.
Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
I vote aye also.
Ordinance number 1438-20, an ordinance relating to zoning, establishing the mixed-use commercial MUC zoning district, deleting the mixed-use commercial overlay district from the Tualatin Development Code, amending Tualatin Development Code chapters 5, 6, 31, 38, 54, 57, 73A, 73B, 73C, and figure 57-1, PTA 20-0001, and amending plan map 9-1, PMA 20-0001.
All right. 2/3 of the way there.
All right. I move to adopt ordinance number 1438-20, establishing the mixed-use commercial zoning district.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 1438-20, establishing the mixed-use commercial MUC zoning district. Councilor Pratt.
Aye.
Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Morrison.
Yes.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
And I vote aye also, so the ordinance passes unanimously. All right. Item number 2 under general business, consideration of ordinance number 144-20, authorizing the city to enter into a short form, franchise agreement with Portland General Electric, otherwise known as PGE. Is there any staff presentation? Oh, there's Nick, Mr. Wendendorf from you, and there's Jeff.
I will do my short part and just introduce Nick. So Nick's done a ton of work on this. I've mostly just sat by on the sidelines. So, Jeff Fox, Public Works Director. We're here tonight to present or ask for your consideration of ordinance number 1440-20, which authorizes the city to enter into a new short form agreement with PGE. And I'm going to hand it over to Nick now and put myself on mute.
Welcome, Nick.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Good to see you again. Jeff kicked us off here, so we're here this evening for your consideration of a short form franchise agreement with Portland General Electric. Let me see if I can share my screen. And can you see it? Are we good?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. And we're off. So an overview of the presentation this evening. I will run through the brief history of how we got here and why we're considering this agreement, what is included in the agreement, and why we have short-form franchise agreements available. We'll go through an overview of the agreement itself with PGE. We'll provide you with a recommendation, and then we will move into discussion. So how we got here. Back in 2017, the city passed a right-of-way ordinance amending the code, essentially removing franchise agreements, which previously were the standard where the city would individually negotiate with utility providers for their ability to occupy the right-of-way and provide utility services in the city. Those were done individually up until 2017. The new code language eliminated the franchise agreements and moved toward a licensing process. And what that did was provide a uniform code that all of the utility providers would operate under, and changed from a franchise agreement that was negotiated to a license that was simply applied for. PGE's franchise expired in December of 2019, so this was their first expiration since the new code was adopted. Typically what would happen is those utility providers would move into a right-of-way license, but there is a provision allowing for the request of a franchise agreement, which PGE made to supplement the right-of-way ordinance and to provide for some flexibility where there is some uniqueness to their services. And so back in January, council approved a 6-month extension of their previous previous franchise agreement to allow time for us as staff to negotiate with PGE and get the terms of this agreement together. So here we are this evening. So why short form franchise agreement? The city and PGE have a very strong partnership. We share and collaborate frequently. As you know from our LED conversations, we share ownership of a large number of assets, over 2,500 assets in the right-of-way, where either we own part and PGE owns part, or we own the entire asset and PGE maintains it for us on our behalf for a fee. And as you recall from our LED conversation, that hybrid ownership model is going to further increase as we continue to transition to LED lighting. And so it's a little bit of a different circumstance, and provides us to have a very strong partnership, and also has us and PGE relying on each other quite a bit for our services in that aspect of street lighting. As I said, the municipal code does allow for supplemental agreements where the utility believes they're in need of some unique provisions or some concessions. And so PGE requested a short form agreement to address a couple of specific needs, which we will go over this evening. A little bit on the short form franchise agreement before we dive into the nuts and bolts of it. The overview of it, all the meetings we had with PGE staff has really been focused on the partnership that we have built with them and the responsiveness that we want to maintain as they come into town to do maintenance and upgrade work on our streetlights. The short form agreement supplements the Tualatin Municipal Code, so that right-of-way ordinance that we adopted in 2017, that will still govern PGE in all instances where the franchise agreement doesn't address a specific unique need. The agreement provides a practical approach to the unique partnership, which is those shared assets that I discussed in that maintenance partnership that we have. And the agreement would be for a term of 5 years, which is the same as the right-of-way licenses that any other provider would get through the 2017 ordinance that we adopted. And so a little bit about what's included, what's the uniqueness of PGE and what's included in this agreement that's different from the right-of-way ordinance, a standard ordinance. One thing that we addressed is creating a programmatic permit for PGE. So typically what happens when a utility provider comes into town to do work in the right-of-way, they'll apply for a permit. Engineering, city staff will review it, and we'll go through the nuances of what's required for that work. And that can be a little bit time consuming to do for a project, so especially when PGE is in town frequently. We get monthly reports from them. They're doing large quantities of routine maintenance, repair of damaged poles and lights, and now, in addition, upgrading those LED lights. And so one thing we wanted to try to do was streamline those repairs and maintenance so street lights weren't out or damaged for prolonged periods of time. So this agreement provides PGE essentially a blanket permit for that routine work that I just outlined for them to come into town without going through the full permitting process each time. One thing that is worth noting is we still will require ADA pedestrian plans and traffic control plans where required. So our staff will still review their job sketches, and we'll make sure that we're still providing safe access to all modes of transportation around those projects. There'll just be some additional efficiencies we'll create by not having them go through the entire permitting process. And again, that's just due to the high volume of maintenance that goes on and our shared ownership and partnership that we have for those assets. And then one other additional differential that we have from the previous agreement and from the right-of-way ordinance is we have amended the gross revenue definition that PGE operates under to include revenue generated from small cell attachments on their poles in the city. Previously, that was not included. And so we've left the calculation alone, but we've brought that into the fold. And so now that will be recouped by the city in addition to the costs we have been getting from PGE for their right-of-way occupancy. So staff recommends approval of ordinance 1440-20, authorizing the city to enter into a short-form franchise agreement with Portland General Electric. And I will turn it over to the council for any comments, questions, hopefully no concerns.
I see Troy Gagliano is on the call or the meeting here from PGE. Is there anything you'd like to say, Troy? Probably not expecting this.
See if he's paying attention.
Yeah.
Can we go back to faces?
Yes. Thank you for the reminder. I have two screens, so I was taking that for granted.
So you want, Troy, are you available? I see you're a participant. I was going to give you a moment to talk for PGE. Is that him breaking up?
In the chat, he did mention that he did not have anything other to add than thank you to the staff and the time.
Okay, thank you. So I saw Bridget's hand was up. Bridget.
Thanks for the presentation. I just want to say it sounds like a smart idea. I know that when I was talking with other city councilors, it sometimes delays in pole repairs and things like that can really affect citizens, and to expedite those kinds of processes now that we're going into a different kind of a partnership makes a lot of sense to me. So I appreciate the clarity.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? I'll just add in that I got a call from Maria Pope, the CEO of PG, saying terrific things about city staff, the city of Tualatin, and very much appreciative of us working with them, especially during this COVID-19, to streamline the permitting process. Because sometimes they have to rapidly respond to fixing some things or some work done, and pulling the permit sometimes could get cumbersome, especially in times of COVID-19 where you have like one linesman or linesperson in a truck. And so they have to dispatch 5 trucks, but normally they might have, dispatched 2. So there's a lot of logistics involved, and she was very much appreciative that we were willing to work with PG on this.
Mr. Mayor, this is Troy Gagliano. Sorry, I had AV issues. Can you hear me?
Now we hear you.
Oh gosh, I'm here all for the whole meeting, and then right when you asked me, my AV acts up, and it looks like it won't let me start the video. But really quickly, thank you for the opportunity just to say a few words. Now, we appreciate the city considering this short form. Our service is a little bit unique in that it's high voltage transmission and electricity, and we appreciate the city considering that. So all the staff has been terrific to work with. So thanks to all of you for being good partners, and we appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Any questions for Nick? Or even pulling Jeff to keep him honest, so pays attention. Paul.
Yeah, really quick, but while Troy's still on the line, and if he doesn't have an answer, that's fine. But I'm just curious, do we have an update on the 2 individuals who were hurt at the construction site last week?
I appreciate the concern. I was out last week for 3 days on vacation. As of then, both were in the hospital. One's injuries were a lot less life-threatening. One had still been in a coma. And about an hour before this meeting started, I wrote our corp comms person to see what the latest was. So I'll be happy to report back once I learn that person's status, but thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Nick or Jeff or Troy? All right, seeing none, what would the council like to do?
I'll make a motion for a first reading by title only of ordinance number 1440-20.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for first reading by title only of ordinance number 144-20. Starting with the picture shifted again. Councilor Kellogg. Aye. Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Pratt. Councilor Morrison.
Yes.
And Council President Grimes.
Aye.
And I vote aye also.
Ordinance number 1440-20, an ordinance granting Portland General Electric a franchise for 5 years to erect, construct, maintain, and operate an electric light and power system within the city of Tualatin.
I'll move for second reading by title only of, whoops, I lost the number. The same thing I said last time.
Ordinance number 144-20. All right.
Second.
Sorry.
I'll second.
First and second motions for second reading by title only of ordinance number 144-20. I'll go backwards. Councilor Morrison.
Yes.
Councilor Pratt.
Aye.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
I vote aye.
Ordinance number 1440-20, an ordinance granting Portland General Electric a franchise for 5 years to erect, construct, maintain, and operate an electric light and power system within the city of Tualatin.
I move we adopt ordinance number 1440-20.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 1440-20. Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Pratt.
Aye.
Councilor Morrison.
Yes.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
I vote aye also. The ordinance is passed unanimously. All right. So moving on for
Things pulled off the consent agenda.
I'm gonna bring that first because the agenda has council communications first. But I'd like to move that items removed from consent agenda up. This way, staff that doesn't need to be on the meeting any longer can leave.
Good idea.
We have 2 items pulled from agenda, from the consent agenda, and that's first item is item number 5, and that is the resolution number 5501-20. It was pulled off the Consent agenda by Council Morrison. So concerns, discussion, I guess. Ball's in your court, Paul.
Yeah, my concern is that we're not being fair, we're not being equitable to the supervisors under this contract by limiting it to just 1.5%. I understand all the issues. I understand some of the concerns from some of the well, I hear the other arguments, and both ways, by the way, from some of the comments that were made previous, but I would like to see that specifically a higher amount, and I would be happy. My preference was obviously to get closer to the average of all the other cities of what they're doing, and to at least somehow stay within the range of the police union contract, which was already approved and is in effect. But I would, at this point in time, just for a matter of expediency, recommend a 2% increase versus the 1.5%. And I'm interested in other comments. I'd be happy to make an amendment to that if there's some other interest from other councilors.
Discussion on Council Morris's suggestion. Council President Grimes.
Well, I hear what you're saying, Paul, and believe me, I feel like our people are worth every dollar that we can find to pay them. But I mean, Sherilyn was really specific about the compression problems and the other problems that we would have with other negotiations we have ongoing. If we give a 2% to that group of people and then we move on to the next negotiation, where it's gonna start at 2% or 2.3, and we were going to be in trouble. I mean, she was really strong with her recommendation that we stay at the 1.5. So I tend to kind of take her judgment a little bit on that. And unless you have an idea about how we can mitigate some of the concerns she had with the other negotiating parties that we'll be getting into in the compression problem.
At this point in time in this conversation, I don't want to address those issues yet, but I'll be happy to address those when that time is appropriate further down the road. At this stage, one step at a time, and this is one step. And with all due respect to our city manager, I would prefer to see them compensated a little bit higher to keep pace with inflation and to actually help with that compression issue.
Okay. Valerie.
I'm wondering, when you were talking about negotiations and keeping it under 2%, and this is fairly small, but maybe a compromise would be 1.75%, and what effect that, I know it's small, but yeah, and I know we're in COVID and people are worried about their jobs, but I do also have a concern that we keep the good people we have and don't, I'm sure they will have other options soon if they don't have them now. So it'd be great to keep them here.
Well, and again, it's incremental steps. I don't want to see us in 2 years say, hey, we're losing people because we're no longer on par with other cities within the area. And so then we're scrambling from behind. I think the operative word earlier was, some kind of emergency protocol to make amends. I'd rather see us take appropriate steps now. My problem with 1.75 is, as I stated at the very beginning of my conversation, I would have preferred to see something closer to the average of what other cities are doing to stay on par with the other cities, to stay competitive, but also just because it's the right thing to do given the rate of inflation and what we're seeing in rising costs across the board. And so that's my problem with 1.75 is you're asking me to compromise on something that I am compromising on already. So that was my issue.
I guess my issue is, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
no, you're fine.
We have to also be considerate of these union negotiations and the cost to our city when we're on a pretty tight budget. So it's a difficult issue.
And I understand that. And that's why I think it's really important to just take one step at a time. And this is the first step.
Councilor Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor.
Um, I I wanted just a couple comments from the last. I thought that the information presented by the city was very compelling of why they're suggesting this, and I'm interested in staying where we are. There's two things that were talked about. One is people leaving their jobs. I don't think that people will be leaving their jobs right now. And the second thing is, I would rather see us not laying off our staff in the future than overspending out of what seems like Don Hudson's and Sherilyn's prudent suggestions and hard work. Thanks.
Other questions or comments?
I was wondering if it would be helpful to me if Sherilyn wouldn't mind to reiterate. She had two main concerns about taking that 1.5 up for the non-representative or non-represented managers. And I was wondering if she could reiterate those 2 points just to make sure that I'm clear and I wrote it down properly, because I tend to lean towards wanting to take the payment up a bit, but when she spoke earlier, it made perfect sense to me what she was trying to accomplish. And so I was wondering if she could just reiterate those 2 points again.
With all due respect, those comments were in executive session because we're in negotiations,
Yeah, Sherilyn's correct. Discussions in executive session are confidential, and she cannot discuss them.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. You are correct. I'm sorry about that.
So you have Councilor Morrison's suggestion on changing the resolution. Can we have it?
Maria's got her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Maria.
No, I just want to add this a little bit on record because I want people to know where I stand, the community. So I feel, like I said, a lot of people are making sacrifices. And I also don't see a lot of people leaving their jobs pretty soon. We're all in the same situation as everybody else. When we do comparables, I don't want to compare Tualatin to like Beaverton because we're totally different demographics as far as economy and a lot of things. So if we ever gonna compare Tualatin, I like to compare it to more cities that are similar to us, similar population, similar economy. I think that's fair versus comparing to Beaverton or Hillsborough, which, their population is totally different. And they have more, they have businesses that are different than, for crying out loud, Nike's in that area. So I think that for us, we have to kind of think of when we're making comparisons to always think of other cities, even if they're not in this county. We can think of other ones. Number two, I actually heard some people saying, oh, we're going to make it greater and bigger next year because this year we're sacrificing. So my point with that is I would rather wait and then make a higher kind of like negotiation, and maybe not just 2%, maybe 3% next year for rewarding everyone that is, I really don't want to do it. I honestly want us to be on a hold until next year and see how things are going to be for next year around this time. And then if things are better and things are positive, then yeah, let's move forward, not just 2%, but 3% to our employees. I'm sure everybody will understand that. However, having said that, I would consider 1.5 because, our employees do work really hard, and I'm not discrediting the hard work that they do, everything that's happening, and the sacrifices that we're making. But that's where I stand. So I stand that I will consider that because of the situation and negotiations, but at the same time, I would rather not. I would rather put it on hold until we see where we are next year and celebrate and be positive. That's where I stand right now.
All right.
So, Mayor, can I then make, since there doesn't seem to be any support for that, but there is support, I'm hearing from one counselor anyway, about something bigger down the road to, in effect, split the difference and mirror what we've already approved with the police contract last year, and that is do the 1.5% now on July 1st, and then do 1% in January, which then it gives me my 2.5 that I wanted, although I understand it's not 2.5%. I, of all people, understand time value of money, but it would be, I think, something that I certainly would support to we give a pay increase to our amazing employees right now, and then take care of them with a little bit more down the road to give them something that's equitable, and more importantly, keep the city on pace down the road with other cities, and quite frankly, with the rate of inflation.
Valerie.
I guess my only question would be, aren't we still in the same position where the union people were negotiating are going to know that, and that's going to put them in a position to ask for more money?
Can I make a point?
I'd like to say something about this.
Robert's first, Bridget, and then you.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason we discuss labor negotiations in executive session. This shouldn't be happening in a public meeting. All it's doing is pitting us as city councilors against our own employees. Why we don't take the recommendation of staff that's been offered and approve it and figure out where we are a year from now, I do not understand. And I think it's irresponsible to even bring this up in a public meeting. So whatever your proposal is to change it, I'm going to vote no.
Bridget.
I just was kind of going to say the same thing, that I didn't feel comfortable with how some of this conversation's going. And I don't think there's any level of predictability into January, especially where we're sitting right now economically. So I'm not comfortable with that proposal.
So in order to move this along, those who are in favor of the resolution as it is now, do I have a first and a second, and then we can vote on it?
Yeah, I'll move to adopt resolution 5501-20.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number, I just lost it, 5501-20. Any discussions on the motions? I'll go through roll call here. Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
That was a yes, Maria? Okay.
Yes, sorry.
No problem.
I don't know if you heard me.
Valerie? Council Morrison?
No.
Council President Grimes?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so the resolution is approved. So next item that was pulled from the consent agenda is item number 9, consideration of resolution number 5505-20, amending water, sewer, stormwater, and road utility rates inside the city of Tualatin and rescinding resolution 5442-19. This item was also pulled by Council Morrison.
So this is the exact argument that I was just making. We were raising the rate on the utility fee by, according to the report, by 3.36%. I don't believe it's appropriate to be raising any rates right now on that utility fee. The current budget has more than a 10% reserve factored into it, which I think is too high of a reserve. It's also something that I think over time, it's the one area that we don't have a rate of inflation impacting it, because the roads, one of their primary ingredients is oil. for asphalt. And one of the one item that has dropped dramatically has been oil. So I would be opposed to any rate increase right now. We want to look at it down the road once we get through everything and get halfway through the year. Be happy to relook at it again, but there's no way I can support a rate increase.
Okay. Others? I'll just bring up a question that Council Morrison asked Mr. Hudson about. That rate increase was already included in our budget that was approved, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so that's a reminder to folks that the budget has been passed with that considered part of our budget. So again, I'll ask, do I have a motion, a second for to pass, approve resolution number 5505-20?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 5505-20, amending water, sewer, and stormwater. I keep saying a weird accent. Stormwater and road utility fee rates included in the city of Tualatin and rescinding resolution 5442-19. Councilor Pratt.
Aye.
Councilor Brooks.
Aye.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Morrison.
No.
Who am I missing? Councilor Kellogg.
Aye.
Council President Grimes.
Aye.
And I vote aye, so the resolution is approved. All right, so scrolling back up. So that brings us to the, I'm still in the report. All right, so that brings us to council communications, and I'll start off with Councilor Kellogg tonight.
All right, couple of items. First, I'm meeting tomorrow with staff from TriMet, virtually, of course, to get an update on where we are with funding. As I have mentioned to you folks many times, I have reservations about the amount of funding that's in the Metro or the proposed Metro bond measure. As it is currently calculated, it will be $100 million short to get the Southwest Corridor train to Tualatin. Also includes no money for pedestrian improvements at 72nd, Max, West connectivity, and the above grade crossing issue at Boones Ferry Road. So I would like to ask for council comments and preferably authorization to speak on behalf of the council before Metro on July 9th. They are having a listening session for Washington County, and I would like to make public comment on behalf of the council to request additional funding on the bond measure to cover those items that will get us to get the train to Tualatin and the other items that I mentioned. So I don't know how you want to handle that, Mayor, in terms of asking for hand raises, or you want to do that later. Just let me know.
Just give me a thumbs up in your screen if you're okay with Councilor Kellogg proceeding with that plan.
All right, thank you. Second item is the I-205 tolling program that we had a presentation on a meeting or two ago. I've been in contact with the office of Senator Wagner and Representative Prusak to see if they will agree to support reframing the ODOT project to provide tolling for the entire length of I-205 and I-5 as is required by the statute. I have not yet heard anything definitive back from those offices because they're going into special session this week, as everyone knows, but expect that before the end of the month that I'll have some feedback on that. And then also, Frank, I'll let you talk about the Clackamas County Tolling Policy Committee.
Okay.
Third item that I have is the Stafford Basin planning effort. There have been some communications over the last few weeks where, as I understand it, Lake Oswego has indicated that they would be willing to do the areas of interest discussion on the Stafford area as long as Tualatin reaches out with a formal invitation to convene those proceedings to both Lake Oswego and West Lynn. There is, as everyone knows, Section 3 of the three-party IGA requires the first step is establishing the areas of interest. I am well aware that the David Marks petition that is at DLCD or wherever it is, but as is apparently clear, it doesn't matter what happens with that petition decision. with respect to the fact that the three cities are going to have to agree on boundaries at some point. And my hope is that because there are long-serving counselors in all three of those communities, some of which may be going off in January, that we try to have that discussion now and do everything we can to facilitate it so that at least step one of the process can be completed. So again, I don't know how you want to handle it, Mayor, but I'd like to ask, if there are enough people that are willing to raise their hands to direct staff to send that formal invitation to Lake Oswego and West Lynn to begin the areas of interest discussion.
I have a question, Robert.
Sure, Bridget.
Yeah, I just want to know, what committee is this that you're working on with the Stafford Basin? Or
It's not a committee.
So what direction, where's this coming from?
Oh, so the people who are involved out in the hamlet, I've been in contact with Rick Cook and Bill Marked, the Borland Neighborhood Association people. They're the ones who met with Lake Oswego last week and got the response that Lake Oswego expects a formal invitation before coming to the table.
So this is the neighborhood association, not the hamlet?
I've been in contact with all parties.
I just feel like I'm not exactly sure everything that you said. For me, I'd like something written to look at and understand this better.
Okay. That's just someone else's hands up. Was it Nancy? Yeah.
No.
Okay. Paul, then Maria.
Oh, you're muted.
Looks like your microphone kind of died or something.
My head there. I think I got it fixed. Yeah, this meeting has gone on too long. I apologize. My AirPods went dead, and switching sound system is a challenge for me. No, I've been in touch with a lot of the different people individually, and that appears that Councilor Kellogg has been involved with. And I had not heard what he just reported, but I'm really happy that he reported it, and I would strongly support that.
Okay. Maria.
I thought of, just so Councilor Brooks, there's something on it on the IGA section 3 for like us to read about this.
So
I mean, I don't know if it's new or not, if Robert Kellogg brought something that's totally new, but it is something, there's something written already in the IGA.
Right. So go ahead, Robert.
Well, I was just going to say as background, yeah, it's section 3 of the 3-party IGA. I'm happy to circulate that. But Councilor Brooks, to assuage any of your concerns, this isn't the 3 councils getting together and deciding on boundaries and it becoming a edict to everyone else. The entire process is laid out in the IGA. The 3 cities have to agree, and then each independently has to bring the agreement back to their own localities with public involvement to have it approved. So really all I'm asking is to facilitate getting to step 1, not finishing step 1, but getting to step 1.
I guess I'm confused a little bit just because, and maybe Shawn's a better person, because we're in the middle of a court thing with this, and it's been a complex issue since I've come on, and so many different parties involved, and so I just I want more clarity.
Yeah, as far as the Land Conservation and Development Commission goes, this would not impact whatever decisions made tonight would not impact that matter. So that the petitioner in that matter is challenging the city's delay essentially on or alleged delay on going forward with the Stafford planning process, and that's the crux of their challenge. We obviously disagree with that challenge, but moving forward would certainly not hurt the city's case whatsoever.
So can I just ask a clarifying question of Councilor Kellogg? What you're asking for is to, as I understand it, is for the city of Tualatin to ask Lake Oswego and West Lynn to have a meeting to start the discussion about areas of interest.
That is accurate.
Yeah. So
Okay, that's helpful.
recall that in the three-party IGA, that the first item that could be approved or start to work on within year one is figuring out what the areas of interest are. And that is up to the three cities to coordinate with each other, the process of doing that. In the past, we met briefly and then COVID hit. We've gotten feelers out from others from Lake Oswego saying they're willing to discuss. I have no idea where Whistling is with this, but Lake Oswego would appreciate a formal letter from the city of Tualatin, basically an invitation that all three cities get together at some time in the hopefully near future to begin the discussion of areas of interest, not go down the full path, but just have an initial meeting to see where the three cities are at with their feelings on the AOI.
Okay, I'm okay with that, an invitation. And I was never thinking Lake Oswego was the linchpin. I thought West Lynn was the city that had so much going on. So I think reaching out just to see where they're at, but I know there's been a lot going on. So
right. So
I don't want to talk. I don't want to make it more difficult. My thing is to be very decent with that city, because they're, from all intents and purposes, in my opinion, is kind of in crisis. And so I don't want to be any part of any kind of hardball thing.
In my mind, it's up to them. We send the invitation and they can either accept or decline. And if they decline, then you have two cities who are willing to move forward, and we're going to have to figure out how we resolve getting the third city on board to just discuss the very simple thing we're allowed to do right at this point, figure out areas of interest.
Right, and just to go ahead, Val.
Oh, I just wanted to mention that I distinctly remember before COVID, we had Mr. Schauber and several of the landowners before City Council, and they really presented their case about the fact that they've been not able to move forward with whatever they want to do with their land for so many years. And this, I think, would just be a very beginning first step in trying to move forward in that process.
Robert?
Yeah, if I can, just some of the impetus here involves the I-205 project to expand the bridge and Stafford Road. There's also the tolling issue, and all of these things are happening around an area that ODOT doesn't even believe is going to be developed. And so if we are not going to at least begin the process to show that some development is going to happen, then ODOT's not going to plan for it. And if the current ODOT tolling program goes through, you're going to have all of the disadvantages that you don't want from development happening from cut-through traffic. You'll see an increase in traffic exponentially through that area. And so I think it behooves the city of Tualatin and the other cities to get ahead of it, to start thinking about planning, to inform ODOT so that they consider that future development in part of their planning work.
Okay. So we'll do the thumbs up again is basically what I think Robert's is asking for Sherilyn to draft a letter, or someone on Sherilyn's staff to draft a letter of invitation to coordinate a meeting between the three cities and for discussion of kicking off the area of interest. That synthesized it well, Robert?
Yes, thank you.
I'm okay with it. Maria?
I did it. You didn't see
Okay.
me.
Well, looks like we get all thumbs up for that.
Okay, you get 2 thumbs up then.
Thank you. We'll get right on that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. That's all that I have.
All right. Maria, you're next up.
I've actually have had a very quiet. I did participate on the, but it was more to adopt like budgets for the MAC committee a couple weeks ago. So, but it was not. We really didn't discuss anything. Everything's kind of on hold when it comes to MAC. It's the communication part of the that I'm I'm part of that committee I'm a commissioner of that committee. So we just met to adopt some of their budgets for next year, and we did some evaluations for the staff, and nothing. Kind of moving forward with, I think Frontier was the only thing that I can bring that they reported that they have changed their name to Flix.
Ziply Fiber.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes,
Sure.
they changed. They reported that. So some of you out there who are listening, you might see that change. It is still Frontiers, and they still said that if you have any issues or problems, to contact Frontier, and they would help you through the transition. That was the big thing. Other than that, everyone seems to be kind of like mellow and putting everything on hold for the moment. That was the only committee that I attended in the last couple of weeks.
Okay. Councilman Morrison.
Yeah, just a couple of really quick things. First off, and Councilor Kellogg is right. We don't want to be discussing things that we were previously discussing, except for the fact that there was no way I could approve those, and they were on the consent agenda. And by definition, the consent agenda has to be unanimous. And obviously we don't want to be going through all 9 items. And I just was kind of passionate about those 2 items in particular. I had voiced those concerns before. And so it's the part of sausage making that is not always pretty. And but it's a necessary form, necessary process we have to go through. The second thing I do want to comment on Western Oregon Dispensary and his continued use of the word best practice, and remind the council that Viewpoint, which is an open government company, their best practice is for marijuana dispensaries to be in industrial areas, which ours is, and we do approve, and there is absolutely no concern that any money have to be repaid, because we do allow them, and it is following the best practices of Viewpoint. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you. Oh, and the main reason I don't have anything is both the C4 and the C4 subcommittee meeting were canceled this month.
All right, Councilor Brooks.
I have a few things. I met with the Willamette River Water Coalition on the 9th, and just there's a lot of projects that are moving forward with that particular coalition. We just have a bundle of rights with that, just to be clear. But we do sit on the board, and we do pay in for those bundle of rights. There is a delay with some of their moving forward due to a court case, and it has to do with the water use, and Water Watch and 2 other environmental organizations filed against the U.S. Corps of Engineers around concerns with the fish and water temperatures, I think. They're also working through, they have some issues with their online reporting, as some of the cities that are utilizing the Willamette River water, their permits and shared users are kind of overlapping, so they're trying to work through those issues. But the big projects are moving forward despite the COVID. For PAB's been really busy, and it's really important work, so I wanted to do a good report on this tonight. We met on the 11th of this month again, and Community Action Rena System did an informational presentation and about their system, a system overview, due to the fact that many people were calling and couldn't get through for rent assistance. The users went up from like close to 5,000. I don't have the numbers specifically in front of me because it was a presentation deck that I just got during today, but it was up to around 30,000 people. So it's just jumped an incredible amount of people are in need. So I think it's really important for people to understand that. And they are going to switch to a system That's not just a dial-in system, that you'll also have the opportunity to enter into the website, which wasn't happening. It was sort of like a phone lottery. And the phone number for it is 503-615-0770. I don't think that the website is live yet, but it should be shortly. And they're also partnering with other providing organizations to help facilitate quicker intakes, because they have to do first intake and a second intake for people in need. The second item was a work systems employment opportunity program that was initiated. Commissioner Treese has worked really hard on this, and we rated 6 very strong applicants for, it's basically job retraining and career goals for people that are in need and close, this is all close to about keeping people housed. Portland Community College was the approved RFP, and out of, like I said, 6 very strong applicants. And HUD also, I also want to say that the top 3 that were rated in this program were PCC, IRCO, which is Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization, and Southeast Works. So over the next 5 years, if there's new funds available and to be allocated, those 3 organizations will be the recipients of that money. So I just thought you guys should know that. And then HUD notified Washington County that we'll also receive another $2.2 million in emergency solutions grants to respond to the coronavirus pandemic. Up to now, the county's received $662,721. And those funds, the previous funds, we haven't allocated the next funds. The previous funds were allocated for prevention rent assistance, rehousing rent assistance, street outreach, and severe weather shelter. I anticipate we'll be discussing the next round allocation on the July 9th meeting. And on the 16th, I met with the Tualatin Arts Advisory Committee. That was also a busy meeting. We've got our city's second storm drain mural is completed. It's located just north of the library on Martinazzi. The committee reviewed and selected grant recipients for art agencies that are in need. And it's a reimbursable grant, so it's money already spent that we're helping people offset costs. It was just a small grant, $1,000, and I don't know if it's officially up who the recipients were, but it was reviewed and approved. Veterans Memorial Site, you guys all know, was selected. And I wanted to also say the sidewalk art contest selection process happened, and there was the people, there was 2 things, some that were, the artists are very good at selecting art and they have very good eyes and understanding. And the other thing is there's technical issues with the sidewalk printing process. So they print the images into the sidewalk, and some images just don't work as well. So there were 2 kinds of, there's some standards like that. We'll also be getting our first traffic box wrap, which is going to be art wrapping around this big traffic box. And it's been ordered. There's a bit of a delay, but from when it's ordered, it should be 6 to 12 weeks anticipated arrival. So you'll see that. And I want to put a special thank you out to Brett Hamilton and Buck Braden for working on the Veterans Memorial project. I also want to thank and acknowledge Valerie Pratt as our new president of the Tualatin Community Police Foundation. And also I wanted to thank John Carsonboom from the Garden Corner for contributing the video on the Bee City USA section about bee-friendly plants on our website. So just so much good work around our county and our police department in our communities and people coming out about what, about what they're passionate about and so helpfully and informative. And I also want to mention that some people on the arts committee, Brett is also has designed some masks that are also safe for intake. So it's just very interesting and creative solutions from our community members. Thanks.
All right, Valerie.
Well, yeah, the Tualatin Community Police Foundation. I think we're trying to do a rebuilding process, and really, it's an important time just to really build that community, and we're hoping to have a lot more outreach going forward. I did find out at our meeting today that the police had they opened their lobby back up, and to help with that, they did their prescription bring back program for expired prescriptions recently. And they took in over 120 pounds worth of used prescriptions, which is just amazing, I thought. I also wanted to mention this Saturday is the Essential Needs Hub from 9 to noon at the library. And that's for cleaning supplies, non-perishable foods, baby supplies, and hygiene items. And last one went so well, and I really hope this one does too. The last thing I want to mention is if you want to find out if you have COVID antibodies for COVID-19, the Red Cross will be glad to take your plasma, blood, or platelets and send you the results in 7 to 10 days afterwards. And you can contact them at redcrossblood.org or 1-800-RED-CROSS. That's it for me tonight.
All right. Council President Grimes. Where'd she go? Nancy dropped off. Do you see any? Am I missing her?
What the ocean life will do for you.
Can I add something though?
All right, Maria, while we're waiting for Nancy.
Okay, I just want to add, I did forget to mention that we have had the selections of scholarships for our Tualatin students or students who obtained a scholarship around this time. So the committee has reviewed all the applications and the candidates, and we will report soon. But I wanted to make sure that the kids and everyone who submitted one knows that we have already reviewed them, and we'll just be waiting on, what's the next step to announce.
All right. Is Nancy back, or is she still not seeing her? All right.
I don't have a text from her. I was looking, so I don't know.
All right. I guess I'll wrap it up. First thing I want to mention is a lot of you probably seen this. I want to pass on my condolences. I sent an email to Congresswoman Bonamici. She lost her mother on June 14th with Marie J. Bonamici Woodcock. Had a lot of lingering health issues. I just want to pass my condolences on to the Congresswoman and her family at this difficult time. On the 15th of June, we had our Washington County Coordinating Committee. One of the big items on that meeting was MSTIP funds. The city of Sherwood requested some money to complete the Blake Street extension. That money was approved. It was roughly about 175 grand, if I remember right. They have some grants they're going to match with to get the work done. There's $4.8 million remaining in the MSTIP funds for 2018 to 2023. The county budget's about $1.5 million a year in awards. So the money's there for projects that are coming down the pipe for all the cities that are in Washington County. The other item that we discussed that night was Oda Lifeline Routes. So there was quite the discussion of ODOT is quite aware of, especially in our area, so picture I-5 and 99W, that in the event of an earthquake, there are quite a few bridges on those major routes, and the assumption is they're going to fall. So ODOT is doing a study right now to figure out what county roads could be substituted for those routes and how much it would cost to retrofit those routes. It's quite a bit of money. If they were to retrofit the bridges that are on the existing routes, it's approximately $150 million. But if they fund the routes that are on county roads, it's about 39.8. Of course, the magic here is there's no budget for this. So this is basically an exercise in planning and cost estimating with no funding source. But it's pretty interesting about the routes that you would have to take to get from basically the coast down to Wilsonville. If you take out I-599W, it's quite the route through Washington County roads. Also, we discussed House Bill 2001 and the code changes that all cities are working on, at least medium to large cities, to meet the deadline for the legislature. We had a overview of the changes, administrative rules that are being placed in effect, and there was quite a discussion about that. Recall that this is the bill that allows in single-family zoning that you can put multifamily, duplexes, quadplexes, cottage groves, cottage complexes. So every city is anxious to hear more direction from the DLCD on how to implement this. But it was a pretty good discussion, a lot of good questions and answers that were resolved. Commissioner Rogers brought up clean water services, that on projects that are infill, that under HB 2001, there's significant concern at Clean Water Services that the infrastructure will fail. That was built years ago based on what they thought was the capacity needed, and that if there's a lot of infill that occur with quadplexes, duplexes, townhomes, that they're going to have to go back in and dig all those pipes up. So how is that going to be addressed? And then the other question was parking. What is the direction from the state on how to address parking issues that the cities have if you allow duplexes, quadplexes, and townhomes in single-family residential zones? One comment was, I thought it was interesting, is it reasonable that development is being driven by automobiles? Which was kind of a different comment that, we're writing our code to, based on the assumption that everyone has a car. The next thing later that afternoon was Chair Harrington's meeting with the mayors, brief discussion on COVID-19 and CARES funding dripping down into cities and how that's going to be implemented. On the 17th, it was my pleasure to attend along with Jonathan the Business Recovery Center's ribbon cutting that's inside the Tualatin Chamber of Commerce. Commissioner Rogers was there, as well as Representative Prusak and a representative from Senator Wagner's office. Later that evening, Mayor Gibson of King City did his State of the City virtually via a Zoom meeting. Attended that, and it went very well. Quite a few people attended virtually, and it basically comprised of a pre-recorded message with some Q&A afterwards. Coming up, we have, I don't know if it went out to everybody. I'm assuming it went out to counselors. The email invite for tomorrow and Wednesday it's a blur. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 1 hour Zoom meetings from the Department of Public Safety Standards and Training. They're offering a 1 hour meeting that you register for, that they will cover in one meeting is basic police training. Then they will cover professional standards in another meeting. And the third meeting will be use of force training at the academy. So I plan on attending, and I've registered. So, considering we've taken the mayor's pledge, I'm figuring the better background we have about what the state and the academy is saying, the better. And we might see if the Department of Public Safety Standards and Training is willing to redo this session later on when we organize our effort to review Tualatin police use of force policies. As was mentioned earlier, the legislature is coming into session on Wednesday. Their stated purpose is to cover COVID-19 requirements that they need to address, and also police accountability and reform. Right now, they're saying maximum of 5 days, but we know how that works. Want to remind people, starting Wednesday, the governor has required in the Tri-County area that you must wear face coverings indoors in public spaces. There's a lot of rules. You know, if you have your own little office, corner office at your building, while you're in your little corner office, you can take your mask off. But as you walk through your office space, go to the bathroom, go to the cafeteria, you're going to Fred Meyer, Costco, bars, restaurants, you must wear your mask starting Wednesday. In restaurants and bars, you are allowed to take your mask off when you begin eating and drinking. So you need to do that. As Robert mentioned, Clackamas County was looking for an elected representative for the ODOT I-205 tolling committee, and Robert volunteered. So we nominated him to take on this task. And I think that's it. Reminder that this meeting, when this adjourns, we have a Tualatin Development Commission, so don't run away. So that's all I have for tonight. Are there any other comments? We'll have a motion to adjourn the Tualatin City Council.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close our city council meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, so now I will now open the June 22nd Tualatin Development Commission meeting. First item on our agenda is public comment. So in public comment, this is an opportunity for anyone to address the commission regarding an item that is not on tonight's agenda. Please keep your comments to about 3 minutes. If there's anyone in the Zoom meeting or the poll center who would like to address the commission, this would be the appropriate time. Bates, anybody there? Or is Bates still there?
Sorry, oh, I woke up. No, there's the poll center.
All right, so we have no public comment. Moving on to consent agenda. Consent agenda, those items considered routine and will be adopted by one motion unless someone on the commission would like them removed and heard separately later tonight. Tonight, the consent agenda is comprised of item number 1, consideration of approval of Tualatin Development Commission meeting minutes of May 26, 2020. And that's it. One item.
Motion to approve consent agenda as read.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as read. Commissioner Pratt.
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Reyes.
Yes.
Commissioner Morrison.
Yes.
Commissioner Kellogg.
Aye.
And I vote aye also. All right. Moving on to public hearings. Item number 1, consideration of resolution number 618-20, adopting the Tualatin Development Commission budget and making appropriations for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2020. Mr. Hudson, he's hanging in there.
And I'm still Don Hudson, your assistant city manager. How's that?
All right.
It's still sunny there.
You have the, you do have the resolution in front of you that will adopt the TDC budget this evening. Staff does recommend that you adopt that resolution after this public hearing. The Tualatin Development or City of Tualatin Budget Advisory Committee approved this budget on May 20th, 2020. The total of the budget for 2021 is $3,526,685. It is allocated between the TDC Admin Fund and the Leviton Tax Increment District Project Fund. The amounts of that allocation are in your staff report. The funds will be utilized for general operations, an analysis of potential future project areas, and capital projects as identified by the commission. State law requires the budget to be adopted before July 1st. And if you do adopt it, you'll be able to operate, spend money, and incur liabilities for fiscal year 2021.
All right. Any questions for Don? Well, actually, I guess public comment. I'm assuming no one still again walked into the poll center. Bates.
Bates.
Can you hear me? Correct. Yes. Thank you.
Still no one there?
Nope. Nobody here.
All right.
Motion to adopt resolution 618-20.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 618-20. Commissioner Pratt,
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Reyes,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Kellogg.
Aye.
I vote aye also. It is adopted. Item number 2, consideration of resolution number 619-20, authorizing changes to the fiscal year 2019-2020 adopted budget. Mr. Hudson again.
I'm still here and I'm still who I said I was. So back in January, the commission closed the Central Urban Renewal District and directed staff to transfer the remaining funds into the TDC Administration Fund to mostly to be used to analyze future potential districts. At the time, there was not anticipated to be any expenditures in this fiscal year, so the money was all transferred into a reserve fund. There have been some expenditures this fiscal year, so we need to move that money out of the reserve fund and into the materials and services budget. And that's what the resolution in front of you is this evening.
All right. Comments? Because Base hasn't said anything walked in, so I'm not going to even ask anymore. So,
Motion to adopt resolution 619-20.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 619-20. Commissioner Pratt,
Aye.
Commissioner Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Reyes,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Kellogg.
Aye.
And I vote aye also. That is the last item on our agenda. We have a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That's it. Thank you
Good
all.
night, everybody.
Your
Good
time.
night, everybody.
Be
Good
well.
night.
Everyone.